After my father's funeral, I wasn't expecting anyone, but she appeared. Clara. A woman I hadn't seen in years, and that's when I realized the house we lived in wasn't just walls and memories. It was alive. It whispered secrets, held shadows of the past, and waited for me to uncover a truth that would change everything. What I found inside would make me question love, loss, and what it really means to inherit a home and a legacy. The house felt oppressively quiet. A kind of quiet that never exists in ordinary nights, a silence that only follows funerals. The walls themselves seemed to pause in their breathing. My name is Ethan Moore. I'm 18, and 3 days ago we laid my father, Thomas Moore, to rest. The sun over Ashfield, Oregon, was unrelenting that day, bright and unforgiving, as if it had no concern for anyone's grief. No clouds softened its glare, no gentle breeze touched my face. The heat clung to me, mixing with my tears. I don't remember the exact moment. I drifted away from the rest of the grieving crowd. My body held flowers, my hands shook, but my mind was elsewhere, echoing only with the sound of wind and the hollow thud of soil landing on the coffin. That's when I noticed her. She was standing a few steps behind, dressed in black, her face hidden beneath a delicate veil. Clara Bennett. I hadn't seen her in over 5 years, not since before my father became ill. I remembered her voice as kind, though always a little distant. She was never truly a stepmother, not fully a part of my life, more like a visitor who came and went like the seasons. As the funeral drew to a close, people began leaving slowly. Neighbors, my aunt, my father's old friends. But Clara stayed, quiet and patient, until the last car disappeared down the street. She didn't speak to anyone. She simply waited, as if the house itself had asked her to linger. Ethan, she finally said. Carrying my name from her lips felt strange, carrying a gentle sorrow I hadn't expected. Thank you for coming, I said, unsure of what else to say. She nodded, eyes lowered. Almost instinctively, I invited her inside. The house smelled the same, aged wood, dust, and the lingering trace of a carefully lived life. My father's portrait still hung above the dining table. Yet the absence in the house now felt louder, stretching into every corner. Clara lifted her veil, and for a brief moment, the late afternoon sunlight fell on her in a way I couldn't explain. She wasn't the woman I remembered. Her beauty was still there, but it carried something else now. An exhaustion mixed with quiet strength, a calm tinged with melancholy. I wasn't sure you'd come, I said. Neither was I, she answered, and I sensed she too needed this farewell, not just for him. A long silence settled between us. The clock in the hallway ticked 6, each sound heavy, like a heartbeat. Your father loved you more than you realized, she murmured. It didn't always feel that way, I whispered. Sometimes, she said, softly, when someone loves too much, they forget the right way to show it. Her words pierced me. For the first time since the funeral, tears threatened to spill. She stepped closer, placing her hand lightly on my shoulder. That small gesture broke the restraint I had held for days. I closed my eyes and allowed myself a brief moment of stillness. When I opened them, the house glowed in golden light. Clara appeared almost unreal, like a figure from a memory I had never lived. Stay a little longer, I whispered. I don't want to be alone here. She nodded. We remained in silence, listening to the slow rhythm of the fading afternoon. For the first time, the house felt like it could breathe again. Night fell over Ashfield heavily, the darkness pressing down. Outside, the Maplewood district shone faintly behind drawn curtains. Inside, the house seemed frozen in its own time. Clara stood before my father's portrait, a glass of wine in her hands but untouched. Her eyes held recognition, not sadness. He never liked having his picture taken, she said softly. I remember. But he had this one made for me, I replied. When I first met him, she said, seemed untouchable, like he had seen and lived through everything. She paused, letting the silence linger like a held breath. Every movement she made carried a quiet history, as if she belonged to another time. Why did you two separate? I asked cautiously. She smiled faintly, without bitterness. Sometimes loving someone means knowing when to step away. Her eyes wandered to the window, catching the shifting late sunlight. Shadows moved across the glass like silent footsteps. We recognized each other too late. But even when we weren't together, we never truly stopped speaking. She walked over to the piano my mother had left behind, letting her fingers hover just above the keys. Memory is a way of returning, she whispered. even if no one is waiting. Her presence felt strange yet comforting, a living connection to the past. That night, she was the only living presence in the house. Later, I heard the piano again, a soft, fragile melody. Drawn by the sound, I found her at the keys, eyes closed, letting the notes hover in the empty house. I couldn't sleep, she admitted. Neither could I said. We sat together in quiet, letting the music fill the spaces between us. It was more than sound. It carried memory, longing, and an unspoken connection to Thomas, as if he were guiding her hands from beyond. Your father always said this house had a soul, she murmured. I never believed him. She glanced at portrait above the table. Places carry love. Even after people are gone, it doesn't disappear, it changes. Her words lingered, a soft truth I wasn't ready to fully name. She wasn't saying goodbye only to my father. She was saying farewell to a part of herself too. Rain began to fall outside, the scent of wet earth creeping through open windows. Clara tilted her face to the drops and, for the first time that evening, smiled. Do you know the saddest part of grief? She asked. What? That we miss not just the person, but who we were when they were still here. I had no answer. By morning, we had moved to the library, the scent of old paper filling the air. We dusted and organized quietly, letting the mundane task soothe us. Amid the books, I found a folded letter in my father's handwriting. Clara, if silence ever speaks to you again, do not be afraid. Listen and tell it I try once more. I showed it to her. Her eyes shone with unshed tears. He never gave me this, she whispered. But he must have known I would find it someday. She touched the paper reverently, like it was a living thing. The house seemed alive now, its corners holding a quiet expectation. That evening, I offered her the spare bedroom. You shouldn't walk the streets at this hour. She nodded. I'll stay in the room at the back. I felt relief, but sleep did not come easily. From my room, I could hear her moving softly, steps deliberate, pausing at doors. And then the piano again. A fragile tune that seemed to belong to the house itself. I descended and found her at the keys, eyes closed, letting the music float in the empty halls. Your father always said this house had life, she whispered. I think I understand now. The wind shifted, a frame fell from its hook, and I discovered a hidden painting beneath. A face I recognized immediately. Clara, what is this? I breathed. He painted it more than 20 years ago, she said softly, before he ever met me. You were here long before him. I murmured. She nodded. Sometimes destiny remembers before we do. We stood in silence, the house holding its breath with us. That night, I heard my father's voice whisper, love doesn't die. It only changes form. The next morning, Clara moved around the kitchen with calm, deliberate gestures. Some things appear only when we are ready to understand them, she said. Her presence alone made the house feel alive. She reached out, taking my hand tenderly. You are proof that he never fully left. This house is yours too. Something inside me shifted. Fragments of grief and memory found their place. She said she would leave that day. Where will you go? I asked. Somewhere the memories weigh less, she replied. But I will return when the house calls me. I didn't stop her. I knew she would come back. That night, I wandered the hallways, listening. I thought I heard my father's voice, gentle and clear, take care of it. Don't let the silence fade. The sheet covering the hidden portrait lifted, revealing both faces, illuminated in soft moonlight. They seemed to look at each other across time. The next day, Clara left, leaving only the faint smell of coffee and a small key on the table. I took it, feeling a sense of duty and belonging. Months have passed. I live alone in the house. Sometimes I hear the piano, faint and delicate, and I imagine Clara's laughter echoing through the halls. Everything feels in its place. I cannot say if my father is at peace, or if Clara has fully kept her promise. But the house is alive, breathing, holding stories and love. Every night, I remember what my father wrote: love does not leave. It only changes form, and in that quiet truth, I find my place, my home, my inheritance. The house breathes, I breathe with it. Somewhere beyond the veil of grief, I feel Thomas. I feel Clara, and I finally understand that love is never truly gone. Days turned into weeks, but the house never felt empty. Even in silence, it seemed alive, as if it carried the rhythm of lives long gone and those still present. Every morning, sunlight poured through the tall windows, falling across the wooden floors, illuminating dust motes that danced like tiny memories. I moved through the rooms with a quiet awareness, careful not to disturb the house's pulse, as if every step might awaken something waiting to be remembered. Clara's absence left a subtle emptiness, but her presence lingered in small ways. The faint scent of her perfume in the hallways, the slight warmth of the kitchen where she had prepared coffee, the soft echo of her piano still vibrating in the air. Sometimes, I swore I could hear her footsteps in the living room, a delicate rhythm that vanished whenever I turned to see. I would stand still, listening, half afraid and half hopeful that she might appear, that the house might offer me another gift of memory, another fragment of connection. One evening, the air was thick with the scent of rain-soaked earth. I sat at the dining table, staring at my father's portrait, feeling an almost magnetic pull from the hidden painting we had discovered. Its surface seemed to hold secrets, subtle shades and brushstrokes that spoke without words. I ran my fingers lightly over the sheet covering it, hesitant to reveal what might awaken. Something told me that the house had been waiting for this moment, that the hidden face beneath the canvas was meant to be seen not by chance, but by readiness. I carefully lifted the sheet. There she was, Clara, younger, painted with such clarity, it felt like she could step out of the frame at any moment. Her eyes seemed to follow me, calm, knowing, and somehow timeless. For a long moment, I didn't breathe, as if revealing the painting had opened a silent doorway between past and present. Thomas always painted what he felt, even what he could not say. I whispered, running my fingers along the edge of the canvas. A memory stirred. My father in his studio, paint-stained hands moving quickly, murmuring to himself, speaking more to the walls than to anyone else. I imagined him here, watching us, waiting for the house to remember. And in that thought, I realized that every sound, every shadow, every whisper of the wind through the open windows, had carried him to me. Night fell quietly, and the house seemed to sigh, stretching the shadows across the walls. I lit a lamp, its soft glow pushing back the darkness, revealing corners I hadn't noticed before. Bookshelves curved around me like silent guardians, each title a fragment of the lives that had passed through this place. And somewhere in that quiet, I felt a presence, soft but unmistakable, as if the house itself was acknowledging my understanding, my willingness to see. I sat by the piano, tracing the keys without pressing them, remembering the hesitant melody Clara had once played. It was as if the music was stored in the wood itself, waiting for the hands that could call it forth. The memory was tangible, almost alive, pressing gently against the quiet of the house. I closed my eyes, and for a moment, I could hear her fingers moving over the keys, delicate and searching, filling the room with the echo of a heart still alive in the shadows. "Ethan?" A soft voice seemed to float in the air, and I froze. Not Clara, not fully, but a whisper of her, carried on the wind through the open window. "Do you remember him?" "Les?" I breathed. "I remember everything." The night deepened, stars hidden behind clouds. Rain began again, tapping against the glass in a rhythm that felt like a heartbeat. Steady and insistent, I moved through the halls, letting the house guide me, each creak of wood beneath my feet a conversation with the past. I reached the studio where my father had worked, and for the first time, I noticed small sketches pinned to the walls. Faces, places, moments he had captured in secret. They were fragments of his life, pieces of his soul, waiting to be understood. I picked up one sketch. My father and Clara, younger, laughing under a tree. Their hands almost touched, a space between them filled with possibility and regret. My chest tightened. The house seemed to hum with recognition, acknowledging the pain, the love, and the quiet passage of time that neither I nor Clara had fully understood. I spent the rest of the night moving through rooms, touching objects, reading letters, opening drawers I had never dared to before. Each discovery was like a pulse, a reminder that life, even after death, leaves traces that refuse to vanish. By the time dawn approached, gray and muted, I felt a connection deeper than grief, deeper than memory. The house was alive not just with the past, but with the people who had shaped it, with the love that refused to fade. When morning came, I found myself in the library again, dusting shelves with care, placing books where they belonged. A letter fell from between the pages of a thick volume. It was addressed to me in my father's handwriting. "Ethan, what you find here is yours to keep. The house, the music, the memories, they are not gone. They wait for those who remember." live with them, and you will understand. I held the letter close, letting the words sink into me. The house seemed to breathe around me, the walls leaning in, as if listening. And in that quiet, I felt a profound truth: my inheritance was more than property, more than paintings or letters. It was presence, memory, love that had settled into the very fibers of the house, waiting to be discovered, understood, and continued. I placed the letter down and looked out the window at the rain-slicked streets of Ashfield. The wind carried scents of wet earth and blooming gardens. Somewhere beyond the walls, I could almost hear Clara's laughter, delicate and distant, as if the house itself were sharing her memory with me. The day passed slowly, the house filling with quiet light. I walked through every room, touching objects, listening to the echoes of past conversations. The faint vibrations of piano keys never struck. It felt as though the house was teaching me to hear, to feel, to understand the rhythm of life and love beyond presence and absence. Evening came, and I returned to the dining room, where my father's portrait hung, still observing silently. I touched the frame gently. The house seemed to respond, almost imperceptibly, a soft exhalation through the walls and floors. Somewhere, a door creaked. I followed it instinctively, and in the studio, I saw a small key resting on a table, the key Clara had left behind. I picked it up and turned it in my hand, a tangible connection to her, to my father, and to the house itself. I realized then that the house wasn't just a building. It was a living memory, a vessel for love, grief, and understanding. Every sound, every shadow, every scent carried pieces of the past. And I understood, finally, that my inheritance was not only of walls and rooms, but of the pulse, the life, the very breath of this place. The sun began to set, painting the walls in gold and amber. I sat in silence, listening to the faint, remembered melodies of a piano I would never touch the same way again. And in that quiet, I promised myself to honor it, to keep listening, to keep remembering, and to keep breathing with the house. Love, I understood, never leaves. It only changes shape, and sometimes, it waits patiently, hidden in shadows, in walls, in music, until someone comes ready to understand it. Night settled over the house again, heavier than before. I wandered the hallways slowly, my footsteps soft against the wooden floors, listening to the subtle creaks and sighs that seemed to respond to my movements. The house had grown more alive in Clara's absence, as if it had been waiting for me to truly see it, to feel its pulse and understand its language. The shadows stretched longer, moving with a quiet rhythm, almost like they were alive. In the study, I noticed the lamp flicker faintly, though there was no draft. My heart skipped. A faint sound reached my ears, just beyond the threshold of recognition. A whisper, like someone calling softly, "Ethan." I froze, straining to hear, but the house held its breath again. It was not fear that rose within me, but a strange anticipation, as though something was about to reveal itself. Something I had been waiting for without knowing it. I followed the sound, moving toward the hidden studio, where my father had painted for decades. The rain outside tapped scatily at the windows, creating a rhythm that matched my heartbeat. As I entered, the room felt different tonight. Charged, awake. The hidden portrait, the one of Clara painted long before she and my father met, stood uncovered on the table. Moonlight streamed through the window, illuminating her face, making it seem almost alive. I approached slowly, drawn in by a force I could not explain. A faint movement caught my eye. The curtains shifted, though no wind had come through. And I heard it. Piano keys pressing themselves, soft, deliberate, playing the same fragile melody Clara had once performed. The sound came from the corner of the room, though the instrument sat untouched. Goosebumps rose along my arms. I could feel my father's presence, not as a ghost, but as a memory, alive and patient, guiding the house. I stepped closer to the piano. The melody grew, delicate, almost pleading. I felt the weight of love, of loss, of years and moments compressed into each note. It was as if the house itself were speaking to me, offering clarity I had not yet grasped. The hidden paintings seemed to glow faintly, the colors deepening in the moonlight. I understood then that the house had been waiting for me to see it, to finally hear it, to finally understand the connection between memory and presence. I reached out, almost trembling, and touched the keys. The moment my fingers brushed them, the melody stopped, silence enveloped the room, and then, faint but unmistakable, a whisper, "Thank you, Ethan." My eyes widened. I turned slowly, expecting to see Clara, but the room was empty. Yet, the air was warm, alive. The sense of her lingered, delicate and strong, as if she had never truly left. I sank to the floor, breathing deeply. For the first time since my father's funeral, I felt a calm that was deeper than grief. The house, the music, the paintings, the memories, they were all part of something bigger, something alive. And I realized I was part of it too. Hours passed. The night deepened. I did not sleep. I sat by the hidden painting, watching as shadows moved like silent witnesses across the walls. And then I noticed something I had never seen before. Small marks on the floorboards, as if tiny footsteps had moved from the studio to the hallway. They were faint, but deliberate, carrying a rhythm that felt familiar. My breath caught. Could it be Clara returning? Or was it my father, moving in memory, in presence, in the heartbeat of the house itself? I rose carefully, following the steps. They led me to the dining room, where both portraits, the visible one of my father and the hidden one of Clara, seemed to regard me together. Moonlight pooled on the floor between them. I could almost sense the unspoken conversation flowing across the years, across absence, across the moments that had been lost and found. A sudden breeze lifted the edge of a letter on the table. I picked it up. It was another note, written in my father's hand. Ethan, the house remembers. It carries our love, our memory, our waiting. Listen, watch, and you will see. The heart of this place is alive in those who care. I held it close, feeling a warmth in my chest, a connection across time that I had never fully felt before. The house seemed to hum around me, breathing, alive, waiting for the next step, the next understanding. Then, faintly, I heard the piano again. This time, I didn't approach it with hesitation. I followed the music to the keys and there, as if emerging from memory itself, Clara appeared. She didn't speak. She didn't move except to let her fingers hover above the keys, guiding the melody without striking a note. The room was filled with an unspoken understanding, a quiet acknowledgement that the house, the paintings, the music, and the memories were all part of a living story. And we were both part of it. She looked at me, her eyes reflecting the moonlight and the depth of years past. Ethan, she whispered, still here, in the house, in the music, in us. Les, I breathed. I understand now. I can feel it. Hugh, and in that shared silence, the house seemed to settle, exhale, and glow softly. For the first time, I felt entirely at home, surrounded by presence, memory, love, and the pulse of a place that refused to fade. Outside, the rain slowed to a gentle drizzle. The wind carried the faint scent of earth and flowers through the open windows. And inside, between shadows and moonlight, the house held its breath with us, alive, patient, eternal. Love, I realized, does not disappear. It waits, hidden in walls, in melodies, in paintings, in the very breath of the spaces we inhabit. And when the time is right, it calls to those who are ready to see, to hear, to understand. That night, I finally slept. The house whispered around me, and I dreamed of voices and piano keys, of laughter and soft rain, and of a love that had never left. In the quiet, I understood fully the house, my father, Clara, and I were part of the same heartbeat. The same memory, the same living truth. And in that quiet truth, I knew I would never be alone again. Morning came slowly, gray and soft, the house still wrapped in a calm that felt almost sacred. I woke to the faint smell of damp earth and old wood, the echoes of last night's melody lingering like a memory pressed into the walls. The house had changed overnight, though nothing looked different. Somehow, it carried a sense of expectation, of knowing, as if it waited for me to fully step into its rhythm. I wandered through the rooms, tracing my fingers along the edges of tables, bookshelves, and window sills, feeling the warmth of memory in each surface. Every corner seemed to breathe with me, resonating with the stories and lives it had held. And then I noticed it, a small envelope resting against the base of my father's portrait, pale and worn, as though it had waited decades for me to find it. I picked it up with care. Inside was a note, simple, yet heavier than any weight I had ever felt. Ethan, you are ready. Listen carefully. The house speaks not only to the eyes and ears, but to the heart. You will understand what I could not fully tell you in life. Trust it, and trust yourself. I held it close, feeling a shiver run through me. The house was alive in a way that was undeniable, its pulse clear in every creak of floorboard, every flicker of shadow. And then I heard it. The piano again, soft, deliberate, calling me. I followed the sound through the hallway, each step echoing in time with my heartbeat. In the studio, Clara sat at the piano, her eyes closed, hands hovering above the keys. She didn't need to speak. Her presence alone was enough to make the house feel whole. The melody she played was familiar, yet it shifted and grew, carrying something new, an echo of my father, of her memory, of the love and life that had passed through these walls. I approached slowly, and for the first time, the hidden painting seemed to move, almost imperceptibly, as if recognizing that I had returned. The moonlight touched her face in a way that made her seem both distant and immediate, part of a past I could reach, part of a present I could touch. She opened her eyes. "Ethan," she whispered, "do you feel it? He's here. All of it. The music, the memories, the waiting. They're not gone. They've never gone. They've just been waiting for you." I nodded, unable to speak. My father's presence felt in the walls, in the air, in the vibration of the piano, in the hush between each note. It was as if time itself had slowed, folding past and present together. The house, I realized, had been alive all along, watching, waiting, keeping memory safe until I was ready. The rain outside softened to a quiet drizzle, tapping against the windows with a gentle insistence. I took a seat beside Clara, letting the notes wash over me. They were more than music. They were conversation, confession, love, and forgiveness, all folded into the space between past and now. I felt a connection I had never known, linking me not only to Clara and my father, but to the very soul of the house itself. Hours passed like moments. Words became unnecessary. We sat in silence, listening, breathing, understanding, and slowly I began to see the truth of my inheritance. It was not simply walls, paintings, or letters. It was presence, memory, life, and love preserved in the heartbeat of a home that refused to let go. Finally, Clara stood, moving with her usual quiet deliberation. She smiled, not with sadness, but with a calm certainty. "I must go now," she said softly. "But this place, this house, it will always call me back. And you, Ethan, will never be alone here, never." I nodded, holding the key she had left behind, feeling its weight like a promise. She walked toward the door, pausing to look back. Her gaze met mine, and I saw something I had never fully understood before. Trust, hope, and the deep knowledge that love endures, even in absence. The door closed quietly behind her. I stood alone, yet I did not feel lonely. The house whispered around me, alive, breathing, filled with the presence of those who had come before and those who remained. I walked slowly through the halls, touching the piano, the portraits, the furniture, and I felt the pulse of memory and life echoing through every surface. Night fell again, but I did not fear it. The house, my father, Clara, and I were all part of the same rhythm, the same heartbeat, the same living memory. I sat by the hidden painting, brushing my hand lightly over the frame, and for the first time, I truly understood love never dies. It changes, waits, and finds those ready to see it. And in the quiet, enveloped by walls that had held decades of lives, laughter, and sorrow, I finally felt complete. I was home. The house breathed. I breathed with it. And beyond the veil of time and grief, I felt my father, I felt Clara, and I understood fully that love endures always, in forms unseen, waiting patiently for those who are ready to embrace it.